My name is Nathan Manzani and welcome to Catching Steam. Now I'm really excited for this video because this is a great STEAM project for the classroom. I took what I thought was a already great project and I really helped optimize it for the classroom. Now, if you haven't seen this before, it's essentially a marble maze controlled by these syringes. So it's using hydraulics to move this maze for that marble to move through. That alone is awesome, but the ones I found online, they're almost entirely 3D printed, which uses a lot of plastic and a lot of material and a lot of 3D printing time that I couldn't afford in the classroom. And I've also seen them made almost entirely out of cardboard, and that alone is a lot of cutting for students, and they use so much hot glue all the time. I'm tired of paying for hot glue for every project that I do. So I wanted to figure out a way to do this without having to spend a bunch of consumables, and that works for a lot of different grades. And I feel like I did that here. I primarily use it for 3D printing, which it may not seem like this is a 3D printing project, but there's a lot of other ways you can use this in the classroom. So in this video, I'm going to show you the basics of how this works and some different ways that you can incorporate it into the classroom. All right, so you're going to need 3 sets of the 2 syringes with the tube in the middle and a 3D printed bracket. How this works is you're going to take 2 syringes, fill one of them with water, and then the other one's empty. And then for the tube, I'm going to end up filling it up and then draining it a few times, so that way there's hardly any air in the tube. For this project, it's not going to be a huge deal if there's a little bit of air, but for future projects that I'm going to be posting, you do not want air in the tube for these hydraulics. So for this, as you can see, when you push on one side, the other side goes up. When you pull on this side goes down. And that's essentially the basics. So now you just need to figure out a way to mount this to the pegboard. And what I did is, again, I have this 3D printed bracket. It slides over the hose and the syringe slides through. And now I have this bracket and that little slot right there that fits perfectly in the pegboard. So now you can make it go up and down with just this syringe. And a couple tips I'm going to give you for the syringe itself is that, one, use this airline tube from like pet stores that they use for like fish bubblers. It's pretty thin and very flexible. I feel like it sticks pretty well to this type of syringe. Now, also notice this taper on the syringe makes it so everything wants to fall off of it. And so to alleviate that issue, what I did is I heated up this end with a lighter and I essentially lit it on fire. And then I pushed it on a piece of metal. That one, it put out the fire, and then 2, it kind of smashed the end of it a little bit. And it gave that little, it changed that shape of that taper. So now when the hose slides over it, now I can put a zip tie here and then it won't slip off. If you want, you can add a little super glue in there too, just to really help secure it in there. But I found that zip tie tends to be enough. So once you make these, I advise you don't take them apart. Don't have students do this because they're just going to be spraying each other with water anyway. So just get this made. Each group needs 3 of them, and then that part is good. So now for the actual maze part. I didn't want there to be any hot glue, just to save me some money and a lot of other headaches. So what I did is I cut up these pieces of pegboard. This pegboard is 12 inches by 18 inches. I measured this size because that just fits in the bottom of my tote really well. It's the largest size that still fits in my tote. This is about as large as I would go though, because once you start going bigger than this, the syringes are gonna, when they lift, they're gonna have less of an angle. So the smaller this board is, the more steep of an angle that can be made with those syringes. But you do not have to go this large. You can go 12 by 14, 16. That would be perfect as well. So you just want some pegboard, and these have 1/8 inch holes in them. And that is awesome for these little 3D printed brackets that I made. So I designed 2 different types. One of them has a slot in the center. And then as you can see, that fits in here, then it holds a popsicle stick. I also have one that's offset. And then that offset just makes it so it's not perfectly in line with the holes. Students will have, there'll be, sometimes they want one over the other. Most of them are just gonna want those centered ones. I found about 50-ish of these pieces are plenty for students. All right, now students can put those pegs wherever they'd like. They can put the popsicle sticks wherever they want. If you have a full-size popsicle stick and half-size popsicle sticks, this would be plenty for your students. Every once in a while, they'll want some shorter ones, so you can cut a bunch of them ahead of time, or you can, I like to use little tin snips. If you want to have some in the classroom so they're not ruining your scissors, one pair of these seems to be enough for them to cut a couple popsicle sticks. I just tell them not to throw them away, so then that way if anyone needs smaller, shorter popsicle sticks in the future, you know, we have the pile of them right there. I do have, depending on what classes you're teaching, I have some ways you can really stretch this out to make it more of a STEM project and not just a little, you know, game for them to do right away. So for early elementary, I recommend them just making the maze. If you want to give them a challenge of, let's say, so you can say how many times it has to move back and forth, or you can give them, you know, it has to have 2 different options, you know, 2 different paths to get to the end. You can give them like basic challenges like that. But students are just honestly going to enjoy making this maze and being able to work together as a team to end up making the marbles go through. That's going to be fun for most of them. Now, for middle school, you're going to need to give them more of a challenge. So I like to use it for 3D printing, and I tell students they have to design parts to incorporate onto this pegboard. So one of them is this little vertical spinner. So if the marble goes through it, you can see it just spins right through. But yeah, I also have this little horizontal spinner here. Now, both of these, they incorporate little machine screws that, you know, fit through, you know, the different holes and stuff, and then it has a little nut that can tighten them on there. But whatever you have students design, having them utilize those holes to make sure they have an accurate measurement is great. Personally, I recommend them just having a hole that goes through the whole part and then use a machine screw to tighten it on. Because once you start trying to 3D print little pegs coming off, those can snap off and you're gonna have issues there. You can also put a little recess, so like a little hole into the part, and then put little pegs, like even a little wooden peg that can just fit inside of the hole, and that can drop down into the holes on the pegboard. That's a great way of doing it too. So after, you know, students are designing and making all these, I like to save those parts that they made and give them to my younger students, younger elementary students, for them to be able to incorporate into their mazes. Another challenge you can give students, and this is what I highly, highly, highly recommend, is giving them an order to fill. Now, what do I mean by that? If you have a career in STEM, you're not just going to be making stuff that you want to make that you think is awesome. That'd be great if you did, but a lot of times in a lot of careers, you're going to have to fulfill customer orders. So you're going to essentially give students a customer order that they need to fulfill. So maybe that's a difficulty level. So a customer wants a medium level maze that has this many options, that incorporates this many 3D printed parts, that has this many traps or this many ways for the marble to fall off. You can give them that list. You can also just have a requirement based on dead space. So you can see there's a lot of spaces here where I don't have anything on it at all. So maybe the customer wants that. Or maybe they want it right in the middle of the maze and they want stuff to move around it. So whatever you like, you can just start coming up with different challenges and then give different groups different challenges for them to fulfill. Then afterwards, you can have students kind of grade, you know, like, hey, how difficult was this one? Oh, this one was really easy. Well, this one was supposed to be medium level. Or this one was really, really, really tough. Well, it was supposed to be easy. So then students need to go back and redesign to better fulfill what that order was. So between the 3D printing, filling, to optimizing design solutions, you know, maybe it's making tunnels, maybe it's making little curvy walls, maybe it's making a one-way trap for the marble to fall in and not come out. Or maybe you have to involve some sort of electrical circuitry in it. I've done that as well, using a metal ball, like a ball bearing instead of a glass marble. So when that marble hits it, it provides contact to turn on lights. There's a lot of different things you can do. Another thing you can do if you're really organized is you can print different colors for different groups. So if you have, you know, 8 different groups, you can have 8 different colors. So that way when parts start falling all over the floor, you know where they go. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. I do have a lot more STEM videos that I'm going to be posting. So if this is the type of content that you like, please subscribe. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. But thank you very much for watching.